Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by my co-host, Tyler Britton and Jacob Boyers. Guys, Cats are back into the winning column after the win against Loyola Maryland, 88-46, in which, Jake, you and I talked. There wasn't too much that we were going to look into this game and ride off with, soundboard topics for. But it was nice to see this team kind of control Loyola from start to finish. And it was nice to see some points we'll dive into a little bit deeper later, but seeing a little bit of that old Ortega, seeing Brandon Garrison crash the board, seeing a lineup change in which BG came off the bench. A lot of topping points, I think, came from this game, even though you and I didn't think there was going to be much to come from it.
Yeah. There's not, I said before, there wasn't a whole lot like Kentucky could do that would change my outlook on, the overall season or anything crazy like that. And that's obviously still the case. But to your point, I do think there were some highlights from this game that I think you can say were positives, including, the big takeaway for me was Kam Williams, seeing him finally look comfortable inside Rupp outside of, that stretch there against Louisville. We haven't really seen him really contribute anything. And then for him to kind of get thrusted into the starting lineup with Diabate being hurt, I think he made the most of his opportunity, tied for a team high with 13 points. But I just thought kind of his energy, especially early, was huge. So not really anybody that I felt like particularly didn't play well in this game. And I think that's what you want to see when you're playing a team like Loyola. And they just kind of went out and took care of business. And to your point, there were, I think, just a couple little flashes, even to your point, BG playing better and looking more confident. Maybe, sending them to the bench was kind of the kick in the butt he needed. And if you can get that kind of performance from him going forward, because, again, I understand it was just Loyola Maryland, but we haven't seen him play with that level of intensity and crashing the glass against teams like Nichols and Valpo in the past. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, and I kind of want to start off this non-basketball talk. Do want to give Brandon Garrison his props for him and his mom going out, giving out Thanksgiving meals over the weekend. Some things, are bigger than a game of basketball. And, he could be, we've kind of mentioned it. I think all of Big Blue Nation kind of has their spears ready for any wrong move that Brandon Garrison makes. And he could have pouted after getting sent to the bench, coming off the bench for a true freshman. Could have made it a worse scenario than what he did. But what does he do? He comes out, grabs 11 rebounds, has probably his best game of the season. And
not probably. Yeah, I would say easily.
Yeah. And then on top of that, plays solid defense, connects with the community over the weekend. I think, don't get me wrong, at no point am I going to say I am on the Brandon Garrison bandwagon. But I think he's put back into his rightful role, which is a good big to have off the bench, especially when he's giving you that energy on the glass and defensively.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's kind of everything we've wanted to see from BG. And, again, if he can come out and give you that on a consistent basis, the games we felt like he played the best last year, it was coming in off the bench and just playing with a high motor. And I know, again, you're not playing a very good team, but just to kind of see that motor and have it running for the whole time he's out there, I think was a really good sign. And, hopefully he can bring that in some of these big games, because we're going to need it with, UNC, St. John's, and Gonzaga coming up.
Yeah, and I think you saw a lot of the ability to move these lineups around. And you mentioned, let's go ahead and talk about Kam Williams. First off, the hair selection. This is so much better. It's a great look. You see this guy bringing the ball up the court like that, I'm all in. And then, Braden Hawthorne after the game says it's the fro. Kam had a hell of a game.
Whatever you got to do.
And this is exactly what we wanted from Kam. This is what we wanted earlier in the season. And I think you saw a little bit of that lineup in which you go a little offense heavy and give the ability and stretch the floor for guys like Ortega to be able to attack downhill. And this is what I've been asking for. Again, preface this by saying it was Loyola Maryland. Loyola Maryland is not a good team. Obviously, the Cats are going to play a lot better teams than them. But this is what I wanted to see. Now, granted,
How about 9 rebounds from Kam Williams too?
that's what I'm saying, and he was upset that he didn't get a 10th, and that's like the energy and passion that you need right now, because I felt like that was something that was severely lacking against Michigan State outside of Kam Williams. I mean, he came in there and played well in that time. I think he leads the team in plus minus for the entire season.
Yeah.
If I'm not, I
Well,
think I heard
he had
him say that
yeah.
on his coach's show yesterday. I want to see more of him. I think I'm at that point now. Obviously, you'll see a lot more of him tomorrow against Tennessee Tech. And Jake and Tyler, I mean, can we get the vaunted sweep of Tennessee Tech football and basketball? I mean, I don't think anyone was. I mean, this is Tennessee
I mean,
Tech.
who's the last team we probably double dipped and swept? I guess Louisville, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, outside of that, it's probably never been Tennessee because you don't beat them enough in football.
That
But
would have been Florida last year. Or no, not last year. Because
well, we still lost.
Boston
We did
football.
play them twice, so we split with them. But
I don't know, man. That's a great question. But guess what? It's going to be Tennessee Tech this year. Doesn't matter if they bring in one of the unforgettables as their head coach or not. John Pelfrey making his return to Rupp Arena. But Jake, I kind of want you just to dive in a little bit on that Kam Williams role. What you think he can be going forward, and how valuable you think these minutes are for him with Mo being sidelined with the injury.
yeah, I think it's just a huge way to kind of get his confidence built up. And you saw maybe it was just the confidence that he realized that Pope had in him by to put him in that starting lineup once Mo was ruled out. But I mean, it's kind of what we've talked about. I mean, this Pope offense obviously needs a stretch four. We were wondering who was going to step up. We talked, we wanted to see either him or Yelovich really kind of hit that switch. And as Mo comes back, you'll probably figure out a way to get them involved together. And it could be Mo at the 5, maybe, I think, at times when you go super small. But even if he's just kind of the primary backup for Mo Diabate, I think you just really kind of see what we've kind of dreamt of with Kam Williams, the athleticism, the ability to go grab rebounds. I mean, he only made 1 3 in this game, but even then it just felt like he just played with so much more confidence. And that was something that, especially probably before the Louisville game, was really lacking. And, we said it, even after the Louisville game, I kind of defended Pope not putting him in until late because it was like until that point, you saw nothing from him and everything just looked hesitant. I mean, early in the year, he was passing up good looks to take bad looks. And I just think for me with him, it's so much more just not even the stat line, just kind of the eyeball test. And you're really kind of just starting to see him settle into that confidence and understanding his role with this team. And I'm with you, Cam. I'm more and more minutes that he can play, I think the better, because I think he's just giving you an aspect that this team doesn't have outside of him right now.
Yeah, and really the only person it seems like you get that similar skill set to is probably Yelovich. And those were two of the guys that it seemed like Pope was a little cautious to play early in the season. And Yelovich, I mean, he only played 11 minutes in this game, got up 7 shots, 4 of 7, 1 of 1 from 3, 4 boards, 9 points. I think you're seeing it from him too currently. I mean, I think realistically, I think I've been presently surprised by all of our bigs outside of Brandon Garrison to this point. Obviously, I don't even know if you can consider Mohamed Diabate a big because he's like 6'6" on a good day, even though we try to play him in that role. I really think the writing's on the wall for a while. Jalen is out, which, Jake, I mean, are we getting good news on that? Because still not out for the season.
The longer it goes without them saying he's out for the year, I take is better news. I feel like if you're gonna have the surgery and miss the year, you probably would have scheduled it by now to make sure he's ready to go for a full off season and training. So I said right after the injury I'd be shocked if he played again. I'm actually now to the point where I'd be very surprised if he doesn't give it another go.
Yeah, and I think I'm there with you. And I think you see the potential lineups that we could have that you and I have been talking about, hoping for going forward, especially if you are to inject Jalen Lowe into that. And Jake, before I finish here, breaking news: Kentucky just won set 4. They are back 2-2 in the SEC championship. The volleyball team, after going down 2-0 there in the 2-2, forcing a fifth set against Texas for the SEC championship.
So you're saying Mr. Momentum has flipped
I'm
sidelines
saying
here?
old Uncle Mo is over on the Cat side now. Skinner's got him ready to go after dropping the first two. They rally back to get two straight. But back to the basketball, Cats. We'll keep you updated on set 5 if we got anything here while we're going. I'm going to say the only thing I was disappointed with in this game is Jasper. I don't think
Yeah.
Jasper played well in this game. And I know he's going to need to be a 2 guard. I just don't think we got the spot for him to play him at the 1 right now. He doesn't look comfortable. And if I'm being honest, like outside of the walk-ons, he looks like the most uncomfortable guy on the floor in his role and what he's currently doing. He's not passing the ball well. He's turning the ball over at a high rate. Shots really aren't falling, and the shots that he is taking are not good looks. Is there anything that you're seeing from Jasper Johnson, either one of you, that you want to see in the next coming game? Like, obviously, we have a game against Tennessee Tech where he's going to get a lot of run at the 1. Is there something you want to see from him in this game that'll make you feel better, or is this something that you just think he's going to start to get his minutes squeezed when we get these rotations a little tighter?
Yeah, I could see him start to get the minutes squeezed, but to your point, it could just be the second we move him back to kind of off the ball, everything just kind of clicks more for him. And I mean, I'm very hesitant to write off a freshman guard after what we saw from Colin Chandler last year, because you talk about looking bad, he looked absolutely horrendous, and then really developed obviously into a player. But I know Jasper hasn't taken 2 years off of playing competitive basketball, so probably a little different. But yeah, I mean, I want to see him just kind of to your point, Cam, of playing with confidence. That's not anything I ever expected to kind of be lacking there with Jasper. You know, if anything, you would think he's overly confident, kind of based on everything you've seen from him, obviously to this point, but also just how he was in high school. So just I want to see him shoot the ball with confidence. It feels like when he does take shots, there's a lot of bad shots. I felt like he took some really bad ones at the wrong times against Michigan State. So just hopefully he can kind of settle in and learn to let his shot come to him in the offense. And then when he's getting those good looks, shoot it with confidence.
Yeah. Tyler?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm having a hard time just getting a read overall with the team. Maybe it's because it's still really early, and I know we've had some ups and downs already this season. But look, a lot of guys are getting a lot of minutes right now. I think they're getting a lot of time on the floor. Jasper Johnson's one of those guys that he's going to get his time, and I think he'll build his confidence throughout the season. I think he'll be fine in the long run. I just feel like we're in such a weird spot, and all the drama that was going on behind the scenes, I don't know what that's done for the psyche of these players, but I think Jasper Johnson will be good in the long run.
Yeah, and I'm hoping you're there. We're obviously, kind of like we mentioned last year, he's thrust into a role in which you weren't necessarily expecting him to play maybe this much or just play the role that he is playing. So obviously he's had to step up and play something that he probably wasn't expected to this early. But Jake, just looking at like the entire box score and looking throughout this game, this felt like a way in which Mark Pope likes to have his games go.
Yep.
You have a bunch of different guys score a bunch of different points. Everybody plays from like 12 minutes to 24 minutes, all in that Pope system. Shoot good from the field, get up 27 threes. You're assisted on 21 of them and only 9 turnovers. I mean, this kind of feels like the way in which Pope wants to play. And it feels like this is one of the first games where we've played to that system almost. Now, granted, 4 of 9 from the free throw line. I would like to see that improve a lot. But they also, they called the first foul in this game with like 4 minutes left in the first half. So, I mean, this game was one that they let them play physical. And that's the thing I think I want to take the most out of this game. Again, I get that it was Loyola Maryland, and you should be able to put your will against them. But it felt like we won this in a way that Coach Pope wants to. And I don't know if you guys have heard him in his press conferences since then, in his radio show that he did with Tom Leach on Monday. It does seem like the confidence is back a little bit in Coach Pope. It feels like he does have like that's something to play for. It's not like somebody just shot his dog like it was after the Michigan State game and after the Louisville game. It seems like there's a little bit of a spark back there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for these guys to obviously play with confidence, it's got to trickle from the, head coach down. And as bad as we've all talked about Pope's press conferences lately have been, it did feel like this one was, a little better, and he's kind of getting back to it. But to your point of like this being the way that Pope, I think if you ask Pope to draw up like his ideal box score, it probably looks a lot like this. All five starters, in double digits. Nobody went off to kind of carry you. Pretty much just very even scoring all the way around. And then you got two guys off the bench with 9, and BG had 6 with 11 rebounds. And the big thing for me was the 33 fast break points. I mean, that's something we haven't seen this team do, no matter the level of competition, really all year, is get out and transition and run. So just to kind of be able to see that, and then, score 24 off of Loyola's turnovers, I think, again, this was just everything you kind of, if you ask Pope to draw up his perfect box score, it's going to look a lot like this. And, I think it was really just kind of the perfect game outside of, to your point, the free throws, but we didn't really shoot a whole lot of them. So very physical game. Maybe that's kind of what suits this team a little better, is we think, they kind of shy away from physicality, but maybe when they can get in there and you're not getting fouls called left and right, it can lead to more opportunities for them to get steals and then get out in transition and go. And, I thought all around very solid game.
Yeah, and I kind of want to, Coach Pope likes to go and talk about all the different efficiency numbers and everything that they look at and how they judge so many different statistics that they get game in and game out. So I kind of just want to go over some of them with you guys. Just from their efficiency score, I mean, the top 3 in this game, you had Kam Williams grading at 25, Denzel Aberdeen 20, and Malachi Moreno 19. I feel like a lot of that matches the eye test, at least in this game. Denzel Aberdeen, he wasn't close to a triple-double, but he got to the point where you started to think about it. And then, I mean, you look at Malachi Moreno. I mean, he's just been so consistent in a rock as a freshman. I mean, I can't believe how steady he has been, especially because, Jake, I mean, I think, maybe like 2 weeks before the season started, we're talking about he's probably like the 11th man on the bench with how many bigs we got. We said he'd get some early time until JQ got back and Yelovich got up to speed. I mean, he's supplanted himself to where you're talking about when JQ comes back, you got to find a way to maybe play them both on the court or find ways in which they can help each other succeed, because you don't want to take him off. And I tell you what, everything, at least in this game, matches the eye test of what I think Pope is looking at. I mean, points produced, 15.5 for Kam Williams. His net points were 10.7 in this one, only gave up 4.8. And, I mean, he had the highest floor percentage on the team as well at 63.5. So I just kind of wanted to give Big Blue Nation a little bit of an in-depth analysis there on what Coach Pope does look at when he keeps talking about we're looking at the numbers and the analytics. Those are some of the things that he's looking at. And a lot in this game showed that Denzel Aberdeen, Kam Williams, Otega-Oweh, Malachi played some of their best games of the season. And I kind of want to talk about Otega specifically here. Who was that guy we saw on the defensive side of the ball? I mean, that was amazing. That was my biggest takeaway in this game. It was outstanding. The effort was there. He was trying to jump passing lanes. He was attacking the glass. He was finding himself in transition offense. This is the Otega-Oweh we need. Now, was this all helped and bevied up by Kam Williams being out on the floor and there being more spacing without Mohamed Diabate out there? Possibly. Or was this just an effort thing all along, like even Otega mentioned? Kind of wanted to get both of your all's thoughts on that.
I think it's a combination, right? Like, I think both things can obviously be true. The game's easier for Otega if he's playing with a lot of shooters and has driving lanes, but I also think it was not a good effort, and he put that in, he admitted that himself coming out and saying that. And then you look at it, to your point, Cam, of how just much more engaged he looked on the defensive side of the ball. Otega's a guy that I think we'll probably know each game pretty early on, like, is he going to be a player that is going to give you a chance to win the game, or is it going to be a game where you should probably send him to the bench? Because I think you can tell pretty early on how engaged he is defensively, and then putting your head down and getting to the basket. It's not anything we've seen against any team this year, let alone the good teams. And that's where he's going to be his best. And to your point, maybe it is just kind of giving him some more driving lanes, and that's something Pope's going to have to figure out, how to mix him and Mo and figure out lineups that work. But I think you again, I don't think Otega went out there and like set the world on fire or anything, but it was just nice to kind of see that effort and see some of that aggressiveness back again.
Yeah. And Tyler, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on what you saw from Otega, just defensively and just the effort in general, because Jake mentioned how Otega said that his effort hadn't been on par for these games. To see it against a team like Loyola Maryland in a game where he could have just gotten his 12 points and called it the day and just rode out in the wind with that one. What do you think about what Otega's done?
Yeah, I kind of like Boyer's point there with you'll know pretty early what kind of Ortega you're going to get for the game, and hopefully that means for him he's gonna he'll have more better games ahead of him. But I think that he did get his rhythm back on this game, albeit against Loyola Maryland. I was impressed to see that he was able to get in front of the ball. He was jumping those passes. He got 3 steals for the day. He was out there on the court for 24 minutes. He put up, he was 5 from 9 from the field, and he got 11 points on the board. He was plus 35 on the board. It just shows that he was a leader on the floor for this game. And that's the Ortega that we were looking for this offseason when we were coming into into Louisville and we were coming into some of these other games. And this is the Ortega Owe that I would love to see when we get into SEC play. So I'm excited that we had him playing. And I think it just kind of goes back to your earlier point with how Mark Pope is kind of utilizing all his players and kind of filtering them through. It seems like he's getting his reps and he's starting to get comfortable with the players on the floor, trusting his teammates a little bit more, which allows him to do what Ortega is known to do, which is play some good ball. So I'm looking forward to see what he can continue to do off this.
Yeah, and so am I. I think if you can get that consistent effort from Ortega, I think that is a lot of what his game goes based off of. I think he allows himself to play down almost to the competition. And when he knows he can get his points in his time, I think that's when you see Ortega shine. And I think this is a good starting block. I think you're actually going to be able to see him take that next step and really build that confidence. Because whether he wants to say it or not, I think the pre-draft process kind of did crush his confidence. He saw guys like Kobe Brea, like Amari Williams, who he probably thinks he's a better athlete and a better player than, get drafted and go to the NBA. He saw them leave. He thinks maybe he should be there as well. I think that kind of crushed his confidence. Coming back, having all those accolades in the preseason SEC Player of the Year, being Kentucky's go-to guy, and then it just not clicking right from the start, I think really hurt his confidence. And I think hopefully a game like this in which he saw he can make a big impact on the offensive side of the ball and the defense side of the ball will get him going. And this is kind of just like Ortega getting out of the starting blocks and he's just ready to go.
Yeah, hopefully. I do think whether it was to your point of like the confidence and seeing guys that he thinks.
Well, all right, we're having more problems here with Jacob Boyers, so we'll continue to get that fixed. But Tyler, I mean, this team, we're trying to find different ways in which the lineup will continue to work in ways that'll get the most efficient lineup on the floor. A lot of that is going to be with Ortega hitting those driving lanes. And I think so much of it really dictates and needs this team to have shooters on the floor. And I think Mohamed Diabate, you brought him in from Alabama to be, a good defender, that role player guy, kind of that Draymond Green type of player. I think he's going to have to do that off the bench. I think you're going to have to roll with a shooting lineup for when Ortega's out there. It's something I mentioned before this game, and it's something I will continue to preach because it looks like Ortega is his best when he's got shooters on the floor with him.
Yeah, I agree there. I think, we get some good shooters out there. And look, I'm looking at some of the guys who are coming off the bench. And Boyers, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to apologize to BBN. I don't understand what the issue is tonight, but players face adversity all the time. In the words of Rick Pitino, we're not putting our head down. We're going to respond, and we're here.
Here you are responding, and I love it.
You were having a take. Did you want to continue where you're at?
To be honest, I've lost all train of thought. So go ahead.
We were just talking about Ortega Owe and make sure he has some shooters around him, but getting his confidence back, and I think that's where you're leaving off was where his confidence was.
Yeah, and to Cam's point of, he was the best player on the team last year, and he's seeing guys that I think he knows he's better than. We're going to power through. We're going to continue to power through this adversity, Cam.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to steamroll right through being laughed at here. But I think when you look at it, and he played with guys that, he was the best player on this team a year ago, and he was a guy that scored 20 any given night, had a incredible end of the year push, and scored 25 plus. It felt like every single game. Those guys, are making NBA rosters, and those same NBA GMs are just telling him that he just wasn't good enough. So, if Cam would like to come back and join us here for the rest of this podcast, we can maybe get through this here in one take.
Yeah, guys, I am back. Sorry, my water a little bit there. Had to get that out, but just a quick update.
At some point, we're going to face adversity. It's how you respond, Cam, from the basketball team all the way down to podcast hosts. What are you going to do to respond to the adversity of Boyers cutting in and out tonight? This is where you, as the leader of the team, you got to be better.
Hey, I think I was doing a pretty good job. You cut out there, and I just effortlessly went through it and kept this pod going. The volleyball team's in a tough match right now. It's 9-8 in set 5. It's going back and forth, Kentucky, Texas. Something I don't want going back and forth are these lineup changes. I want something, that's kind of something I mentioned to Tyler while you cut out there on us, Jacob, is we have the potential for so many different lineups. And something that we see with Kenny Brooks and this women's team is how short he's cutting these rotations. He only had 7 players play against Louisville on Saturday. I think you're going to have to get something similar like that. I'm not saying it's going to be 7, but I think you got to cut this down to 8. And then if you get in foul trouble, maybe bring in that 9th. But when you're looking at it right now, who do you think are those guys that obviously right now without Jalen and JQ, it makes it a little bit easier. But let's say in a perfect world, Jalen and JQ are back and healthy. What does that set of 8 players look like to you? Who do you think's getting that nod? It's tough.
It does get tough.
What Coach has to do this year.
Yeah, I think one of the obvious to kind of get cast away will be BG, even though that it feels kind of weird saying that coming off of his best game here. But you mentioned it. I've praised Malachi every game this year, and it doesn't feel like that's going to slow down. So yeah, I think it's got to be JQ, Jalen, Denzel, Colin, Ortega, Mo, and Kam Williams, and then probably Yelovich is probably right there on the cusp, and you could probably find some lineups and moments where he plays. But yeah, it's just the problem is it's just not in Pope's nature. Even going back to his Utah Valley days, really, he likes to play. He likes to play a lot of guys. He talks about efficiency numbers and how guys they're most efficient when they're 25 minutes and under. But I do agree, like there's going to come a time this year, especially with this team, I just don't think it's deep enough where you're just going to have to say these are our best 8 guys on a every night basis, and we're just going to roll with them. And that was one thing I thought Cal did really well. Sometimes maybe he was even a little too short going with 6, but he knew if he had 5 dudes, those dudes were going to play for just about the entire game if they weren't in foul trouble.
Yeah, and before we leave that topic of the minutes per game, do you think that's a reason we're not getting a lot of these recruits right now? I think it's got to be. Yeah. If you're a top high-end high school recruit, last thing you want to hear is, hey, listen, you're more efficient over 25 minutes versus 35. Like, yeah, I can see where the efficiency would say that, but guess what? I'm going to go out and score 28 instead of 18 in that time, and I'm going to get drafted 4 spots higher. And I think that's probably a lot of reason why our recruiting is struggling. That's why we're not landing these top-end, even transfer portal guys. When you look at like Yaxel, I think there's a reason we didn't land him. Obviously, money has been a situation too where some guys are just offering more, like Lamar Wilkerson. Like, I'm sure he didn't want to come in and play just 25 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Same thing with, I don't know why, the guard that went to UCLA.
Dent.
Yeah.
But I think they probably – I feel like that was probably a money thing. But, no, I do think that's definitely a thing, right? And, just think about a guy like Tyron Stokes or whatever, top recruit we missed out on in the past year or so. Think about it not just from the the stat perspective of like, I might only average 14 a game, where if I go here and play 35 minutes, I could, average over 20. Just think about it like when they get kind of to the NBA, right? Like if you're a top 5 pick in the NBA, that first year you're going to be playing 35 plus minutes a night in an NBA game on back-to-backs, and you're playing 82 times a year. You want to show them that you're not a guy that can only go out there and play 20 minutes and then you got to get pulled because you're not as efficient after that. So I think all that kind of factors into it. And again, I think it's something Pope's going to have to learn and kind of adapt to. But, in order to get, I think, the top talent, those guys are going to want to know that if, I don't think you have to go out and promise them minutes. Like we saw that with Cal. He would always say he wouldn't promise them minutes. But I think all those guys knew if they were one of the best 3-4 players on the team, they weren't coming off the floor, and they knew that their talent was good enough to be one of those 3-4 best players on the team. And I think that's what you got to kind of show these guys, that if you're one of the best players on the team, we're not going to sit you for 20 plus minutes a game.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for Pope to find like that happy marriage between the two. I'm waiting for him to, because we saw that at the end of last year. He started playing Kobe Bryant a lot more minutes. He started playing Ortega a lot more minutes. Same thing with Amari Williams. He started letting those guys go past that efficiency mark. And then I think that's when the team started playing their best, is when the best players were on the floor for the longest period of time in which they were productive and not in foul trouble. And I think that's where Pope is going to have to find it out now. And right now it's really tough for him to find it out. We're, are we officially 5 games into the season now?
Yep, 3-2.
You don't have your starting point guard, and more than likely what's going to be your starting center when he does come back. Breaking news, fellas. Breaking news. Cats have come back from 2 down to win the SEC championship. Craig Skinner and the football team take down the Texas Longhorns. And
what a win. What a comeback.
What a comeback. In which that first set, man, they did not look good. I was telling Tyler, I was like, Eva Hudson Player of the Year. I'm not sure about that. I'm not – it was the same thing I was talking about with like the Ortega preseason Player of the Year. I was like, I'm not seeing it. I don't know where it's at. Boy, did she respond in the 3rd, 4th set.
Heck yeah.
And these
what
Cats, I mean, what is Skinner's got to have and come talk to like the basketball team, the football program. I want him as a little bit of an assistant, a little bit everywhere, because, man, he's got a stranglehold.
Best coach on campus.
It's not even close.
Not even close.
The one who's even arguing with him right now is probably Coach Kenny Brooks, because he's got that women's team. I'll tell you what, the women at the University of Kentucky are really putting on for this program right now. We need these guys to step up.
Absolutely.
Where was I before the breaking news?
I don't know. But that was exciting.
It was very exciting. I mean, you don't.
Where do we want to go now? Do we want to continue to talk about this game? You want to talk about tomorrow's game? We want to talk about what we think's coming up with UNC, St. John's, and Gonzaga. Where do we want to take this?
Let's go ahead and talk about this John Pelphrey-led Tennessee Tech team and just what we want to see from the Cats. We've mentioned how nothing that really happens is going to sway our opinion, big picture. Obviously, I mean, I haven't been told, haven't seen anything. I would doubt that Jalen Lowe plays in this game, but I don't think he's officially been ruled out. I know Mo Diabate is going to be out for tomorrow. So you're probably looking at that same starting lineup that you saw against Loyola Maryland. For me, I just want to see Kam Williams continue on what he did, and I want to see that defensive integrity from Otega Owe. As long as I got those 2 things in this game and those keep continuing to be positive trends, I think I'm going to feel good about this Cats team.
Yeah, I think I want to see something obviously very similar to what you saw Friday, and I think you kind of hit the 2 main guys you want to see it from right there on the head with, Cam and Otega on the defensive side of the ball. So I expect, Tennessee Tech, they are like 300 and something in KenPom, so it's not like we're playing a good mid-major team or anything. So just continue to kind of build it, get confidence, have all 5 starters in double digits again, and have some guys on your bench contributing. And yeah, I'm good and ready to roll.
Yeah, Tyler, what are you looking for? One key point that you can take out of this game against Tennessee Tech, if they were to say this makes me feel better about this team, what would that be for Tyler Brett?
Yeah, I would like to continue the momentum. We were talking about Jasper Johnson earlier, and the production that what he did in this last game. I would love to see him take the next step. in his role with the team. I'd like to see more points on the board with him, more production there. And also Colin Chandler. I think, he put 13 points up on the board. He played 21 minutes. I think he's been a spark all year. When he's been playing well, the team's been doing great. So I just want to see him continue to grow as well. Otoge Owe is I was going to go with you guys on that too, so I'll continue with that as well. But I think those three guys, but Jasper Johnson, I think, is the biggest asterisk for me to just continue to watch it grow and develop in his role. And maybe that leads to start some more minutes later down the road. We really need him against the SEC play.
Yeah, and I really like what you said there, Tyler, because, Jake, imagine if we can get Jasper to really start cooking and feeling confident, and when you do go to those guards off the bench,
Yep.
instead of having that immediate step down or that drop off, you just come in and have that instant microwave of Jasper Johnson. And I still think he's confident in his scoring ability. I just don't think he is confident in his playmaking ability right now. I don't think he's seeing the floor as well as he's used to seeing it. It hasn't come as easy as what he's used to, which obviously happens to all freshmen at some point.
Yep.
And Tyler, I think you just did a great job in saying where Jasper can take a next step, and hopefully, because these are the last couple of easy games we got are coming up here soon. If he's going to start building that confidence, doing it against Tennessee Tech would be a nice start.
Yeah, just knock down some shots, and maybe that playmaking and all that. If you get Jalen Lowe back and he can slide back into being a backup 2 guard, and he doesn't have to worry about, he could just be overcomplicating everything, trying to make too many plays and just not letting the game come to him because he feels like that's his role currently as the point guard. So, hopefully as Lowe gets back and he really doesn't ever have to be a point guard unless there's a game with injuries or foul trouble, and he can just kind of settle into that role. And, I said let the offense come to him. Hopefully, the having the ball out of his hand, it takes that kind of stress off of him of feeling like he needs to go make plays.
Yeah, and let's just go ahead and talk about big picture, everything Kentucky basketball right now. Obviously, I don't think any of us feel quite as bad as right after the Michigan State game. I don't think any of us feel a lot better than after that Michigan State game. But with the non-news from Jalen Lowe of him not being shelved for the season, is that giving you guys a little bit more juice, a little bit more confidence in what this team can be? Hopefully, maybe getting him and JQ back around the same time, maybe around conference play. Does that make you think that this team's ceiling is higher, or even maybe their floor is just higher?
Yeah, I think it elevates the floor especially. I will say I'm watching Indiana right now absolutely run Kansas State, so, they're probably a little better than I thought. I am going to say something, and it's going to come off as crazy because this team is really good. I feel a lot better about our chances against St. John's and even Gonzaga. And bear with me, hang on, strap in, come for a ride with me because I'm gonna tell you why.
I can't say I'm strapped in, but I'll go for the ride.
Michigan State and Louisville, what killed us? Dynamic guard play. Both of those teams have obviously really good big men, and we're freaking out about them and worrying about them. They don't have, St. John's is very similar to Kentucky in the fact that they don't really have a true point guard. That was the one thing, Rick didn't go out and buy. So I think, again, we haven't played a team like that really yet, so we don't really know how we're going to match up with them. But what I know we haven't matched up well with to start this season is teams with dynamic guard play. So maybe playing a team where their primary scorers are big men. I don't know. I'm just saying I'm feeling better about both of those games, even though I think those teams are really, really good, especially against Gonzaga. I think they're one of the 3 best teams in the country.
I don't know if I can join in on that ride with you, at least yet, because I think St. John's plays a brand of basketball in which I don't think matched up good for us even coming into the year. And even, I get what you're saying and how what we've seen that's killed us so far has been guards. Just because we've seen what's killed us so far doesn't mean there isn't something that'll kill us in a different style.
You don't think Mo could play a good game against Bryce Hopkins?
I do not. No. If you
I
want me to be
know.
completely honest, no, I do
That's
not.
fine.
I think Bryce Hopkins is a better player all around in almost every aspect.
And I'm not saying Mo's going to go out there and score 30 against him, but
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think that the two combination of their big men will probably have 40 plus between the two of them, with probably 25 boards against us. Especially if you're not going to have a healthy JQ. I think that'll be a real learning curve for Malachi. I don't think Malachi's got the strength to deal with either one of those two in a post setting at the moment. Even though I think he's played great so far.
I mean, we all know Mr. Negative Cam Johnston. We get it. We get it.
I'm there. I've been telling you about the St. John's game since the beginning of the year.
I know, but when you watch of how we played against Louisville and Michigan State, I'm more worried about playing a team like Alabama than I am playing a team like St. John's or Gonzaga.
I'm worried about both. Those are both great programs and are doing great things, and I'm worried about both. So chalk me down for being negative if it's being talked about with St. John's, Alabama.
Yep. Oh, we know.
I mean, I'm going to side with Cam just a little bit on this one, just because I don't think we've proven anything this year. So until we start proving something, it's going to be really tough to, justify what Boyers is saying on that. I would love to go into those games with some confidence, but I also want to see some play from our team. So we'll see what happens.
And I want to say this is coming from the ultimate positive Tyler Britton, who had us going undefeated in conference and non-conference.
That is true.
I did. They proved me wrong so early, and it's just completely diminished everything I was going to, be hyped up about. So I'm in such a proven state at this point.
It was kind of like when you picked Alabama to go undefeated in football, and they lost within an hour of the football season started.
No kidding.
All right, guys. Do you have anything for Big Blue Nation before we sign off here? This will be our last pod before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of Big Blue Nation. Guys, I know everybody's got plans with their family. We'll obviously all be watching this game on Wednesday. But I won't see you guys for a little bit of time after that until we all meet back up. Until next week. Guys, hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Everybody just say one big thing to Big Blue Nation before we head out of here.
Yeah, big L's down for the football game on Saturday. So we got to make sure we do that on the basketball pod because, we got to give support to the football team at all times. Big week this week.
Yep. Women's volleyball obviously won. We'll go out and we'll kill Tennessee Tech tomorrow. And then, let's get a football win on Saturday and make everybody's Thanksgiving, pretty special. The Bengals, obviously, they're not going anywhere this year, but hey, we can go out and ruin Baltimore's Thanksgiving night.
That would ruin my Thanksgiving more if they won that game, if I'm being quite frank with you.
That's a horrible take, and we can talk about that later off the air, but just absolutely ridiculous. But
guys, we're forgetting we're forgetting a big game on Wednesday. 5:30, this women's team, Kentucky women's, plays number 7 Maryland. They're in Puerto Rico right now. It's going to be a big game. It's their second test of the season. Obviously, answered the first one against Louisville. Looking forward to that game at 5:30. Then they play again on Friday. So if you're needing a little bit of things to watch this weekend, even though you've got a bunch of college games on Friday.
Feast week, baby.
You've got so much going on. But if you got some time, support those Lady Cats as well. But we'll have you covered on anything and everything Kentucky athletics here at the Cats Talk Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, and we're everywhere you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're anywhere and everywhere, baby. It's still Louisville Hate Week. I mean, guys, let's make it a great week. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you, and happy Thanksgiving to Big Blue Nation. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Big Blue.